right, let's go. Good morning, Chicago and the rest of the world. Welcome to the Money, Sex, Gen X podcast. This is season number 5, episode number 4. Stu.
Indeed.
Me and Stu been putting in some work for a while now. We made it to season 5, and today we have a beautiful topic that we're getting into, and that topic is should you go into politics?
Wow.
We're going to dive into that today. I am your host with the most, the man with the plan, the Scottie Pippen of podcast Pimpin'. And I am joined by the illustrious Titan of Teen Tech, a dope cat that curates dope people on his other podcast, and the Kanye of the stock trades. My host, my partner, my brother, my homie, Big Stu.
Welcome. Glad to be back for another show.
Yes. How you doing, Big Stu?
I'm blessed and highly favored.
Okay.
Repping the HBCU Southern Baton Rouge today.
I see
you. Know what I mean?
I see you.
Super excited. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good. I'm excited about this topic. We have 2 notable guests today. We have Alani Brown and we have Mr. Maze Jackson. Yes, and I want to thank you all. We're going to introduce you all in a second, but I wanted to get in quickly, Stu and Alani and Maze, about why we wanted to go into this topic. So Stu and I talk about a number of different things that have impacted us throughout our lives. I grew up in a religion that said to us that it was bad to participate in politics. They said it was a no-go, no-fly zone. You couldn't be a part of it. I'm not going to say what the religion is, but if you're familiar with religion, you probably can figure it out. But that never really sat well with me, Stu. I always felt something was wrong with that. And I don't think I lived up to that as I went throughout my life. But I wanted us to get into this today for the younger people to really talk about what is politics as a concept? Like, what is the actual definition? And what are some ways to be political besides just running for office? So I want to dive into that. But first, let's introduce our guests. We have Alani Brown. How you doing, Alani?
I'm good. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you for joining us. We met on the Scenario Show podcast.
Yeah.
I went through our whole episode. Let me try to do your bio some justice. You are from Harlem, New York. You are now living in Nashville, Tennessee, which I don't learn more about that. You graduated from Tennessee State.
The Tennessee State.
Put
some respect on it.
No doubt, with a BS degree in mass communications. And then you went on to Lipscomb University and got an MS in civic leadership.
That's correct.
We'll talk more about that. And then one thing that jumped out at me, you're in the publicity world. It looks like you have some very notable clients. Yvonne Orji, I think that's the lady from Insecure. Okay? One of my favorite actresses. Stedman Graham, we all familiar with him. We definitely know TD Jakes, Joe Osteen, a lot of notable people. And then this jumped out at me, even when we did the other show. You love to travel.
Yes.
You're an avid traveler like myself. You love cultural events, very active in the community. And then you also, like myself, serve on a lot of not-for-profit boards. And you are the mother of Kia and Taylor.
That's right.
All right. Anything that I missed that the people should know?
No, I think you covered it all. That sums me up in nice little wrapping paper in a package. So yeah, that's me.
Okay. All right. And then we got.
Oh, wait, I have to give a shout out. I am coming to you from Dallas, Texas. So I have to give a shout out right now.
Shout out to Dallas.
Shout out to Dallas, Texas. Love it out there in Dallas. Shout out to y'all.
Indeed. Okay. And then we got brother Maze Jackson here. I'm gonna let Big Stu introduce him so we can get to know more about Mr. Jackson.
Yeah, well, this could go on for a whole episode in itself. Let me just say, Maze he's the only person, I was saying this in the conversation last night, man. Maze is the only person I know in my circle that is directly involved in politics. He's one of the guys, and he's currently serving as a political analyst for the intelligence group which is a full-service public affairs agency based out of Chicago. So let me say that first. Like, I've seen Mays on Fox News more than I've want to even not acknowledge. I've seen Mays on Mays, did I see you on CNN or something like that at some point? You know, well, we'll talk about it now. Mays can talk. Let me hear that. But prior to operating the intelligence group, Mays served as the ED, the executive director for the Illinois Legislative Black Caucus Foundation. Nice. I even tried to get Mays to help me pass a couple of law bills or sometimes. Hey, when you got the resources, you want to use it. He spent over 15 years as the president / founder / CEO of Universal Mays Jack Enterprises. That's one of the first places I met him. It seems like it's been longer than that in the entertainment world, which is a full service urban advertising, marketing, promotions company. He's the chairman emeritus of the board of the Christian Community Health Center. He's the founder of the Generation Now Political Action Committee. He's the president of the Iota Phi Sigma chapter, the dark side of Phi Beta Sigma. Look, I could go on and on. He's on WVON. He's on the board for True Star. Well, we used to be on WVON. Used to be. Board of the True Star, political editor to the Chicago Defender. He's the guy that started What's in It for the Black People. If you've ever seen that hashtag, What's in It for the Black People, that's the dude right there. He's from, he is proud. Well, look, I could go on and on and on and on and on and on. And some of that is going to come out today. He is a media personality. He's been on ABC, CBS, New York Times, Chicago. It's a big deal that we got Mays and Laney here today. And not only this, because behind every strong man is a strong woman. And Mays is married to the Metropolitan Water Reclamation Commissioner, Carrie K. Steele. He's got 2 kids, a daughter, Milan, and the little homie hoop star, Maison II. Mays Jackson, welcome to the show, brother. Anything I missed, man? I know I did. But you know what, anything else you want to add, man?
I'm going to let it sit right there and just say that I can't believe the justice you did to them words on that paper. I was looking at it like listening to you like, Dad, can I hire you to introduce me in the future? Yes, you can. My pockets are a little light. I don't know if I can afford it as well as you did that. But I am. Let me just say I'm thankful to be here today, and I am honored to be here with your esteemed guest as well. And let me just say, guys, I appreciate what you're doing, and in this space that we operate, where you put yourself out there, you share your opinions. I want to commend you on taking a step into the podcasting world. In some kind of way, we got to figure out how we get you on the What's in It for the Black People Media Network, which is where I believe you were supposed to start. And I think I left it in the hands of people of our discussions, and we see how that worked out. But let me just say that we think we're going to figure out a way to work together in the future.
All right. That sounds good to me. One thing that I saw, Mays, and let me know if this is true, and then let's dive in. Weren't you in a recent Netflix special about Black or something?
Actually, not Netflix. It was Hulu. And it was actually this is my second one. So I was in I had one last year, and then I did one this year. Both of them went to the top. The Being Blake Blago went to number 2. And it is, I would just tell you that I was surprised at how well it did. And then last year we were in a Sundance nominated one from Hulu as well. So yes, you did see that. And I am grateful for the producers over at ABC for putting me in it. Yes, it was great.
True indeed. All right. So let's dive into this. I want us to do this conversation with some justice. So I want to start out with a few quick facts. Correct me if I'm wrong. We're talking about politics, and we know that voting and citizenship were largely denied to people of color to around 1870. In 1954, Black activists launched the Civil Rights Movement. Jumping to 2012, the national voter turnout rate among Black citizens exceeded that of white citizens for the first time in American history. And then in 2013, the U.S. Supreme Court decision Shelby County versus Holder is saying gutted Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act. and that kind of changed the formula for jurisdictions in terms of counting people. But I say all of that to say, we're having this conversation for young people. Lainey, how would you define the concept of politics? What does that mean to you?
Politics is the governing body of how all of our laws are made, our judges are elected, from the dog catcher to the president. Somebody has to elect somebody. And we are the people that are chosen to elect these people. And if we don't get involved, then you allow a small portion of people to create the world that we live in. And that's why it's important to get involved in politics.
Indeed. Mays, how would you define politics? What comes to mind?
War without blood. When I look at politics, I look at it as war without blood. It is a battle for resources. And I think that is part of our problem when we view politics, because we view it altruistically when it really is a war for resources for whatever constituency that you represent. So when I think of politics, that's really my approach.
A war for resources. I like that. Now, I tried my best to do some research about how politics showed up and existed in ancient Africa. And I wasn't able to research it fast enough, but I definitely wanted to broach this subject, Stu, in this conversation. So we know that most of what we see in today's society, a lot of the structural pieces were brought into existence in the cradle of civilization. Have any of you all done any research or had exposure to what politics looked like in Africa, in ancient Africa? And do we have any remnants of that show up today?
I can't say that I have.
I would be honest and tell you that I have not either. I wouldn't go that far. I've seen politics in Africa recently and been there, and it's a challenge to say the least. But no, I wouldn't say that I've gone that far back.
That's a whole different show about Africa today and politics. That's a whole different show.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, I wish I'd had time to do more research on it. The only thing I found when I was doing research quickly is that the politics depended on the economic structure of the particular country at that time or the particular region of Africa. But I'd like to know more about that. But I feel like the thing that a lot of young people are missing when we talk about politics is that, yes, as Lainey kind of alluded to, it helps you to kind of clarify what you believe in. It helps you to know what your rights are. But some people believe that it's a living, breathing subject. And that's kind of how I view it. It's a little more fluid than maybe I saw it 20 years ago. But I want us to get into, Stu, and I want to ask this to Stu directly. What has your involvement been with politics? And if a younger person came to you and said, I'm thinking about getting into politics, what would you tell them?
Well, I don't have a good purview of politics coming from being born and raised here in Chicago. And my father was, one of the first Black Chicago police officers hired back in the early 60s, late 50s. Politics, as far as I'm concerned, or had been concerned up until now, is like a dirty game filled with liars who are stuffing their pockets, who only have their self-interest and who, could care less about the people. That's how I have experienced politics as a shorty, as a younger person growing up. And so I have a disdain, or have had a disdain for these crooked line politicians, if you will. And it's only to be very, very transparent, it's only since the Obama campaign that I started to say, oh, okay, maybe this is something that I should pay a little bit more attention to. Although I've never missed an election, an opportunity to vote, I never felt my vote counted, and I never had a clear understanding of what these people did or what they were doing. And again, it just became relatively clear to me that maybe I could have some influence in that space. And E-Money, the understanding of politics never translated to how politics played out in my professional life, like, which is probably why I didn't fare so well as a young professional, because I never understood politics, right? I always saw it as a barrier to those resources. And my fight is different. So when I think about war, I'm thinking about blood. But so to hear May say politics is war without blood, I ain't had a wherewithal to have no war without blood. When we warring, it's blood. How you gonna have war without blood? That's a very savvy game that I never quite understood how to play. And I'm just now pulling back the layers on that. So that's what I got.
That's a great response. I like how you brought corporate into it. I feel the same way. Like, I've never was able to play that political game. But since Laney, you are a publicist, so you're in the publicist world, I'm curious as to how politics show up with some of your clients and the things that they're attempting to do.
So I work in book publishing industry. And so, I have a lot of different authors from across the spectrum. And politics can play a big, huge role in depending upon where we place them in the media and what they want to talk about. Because a lot of times you have famous people and you have people who want to get out there and talk about whatever their book was about, but we can't place them on certain shows because we know that those are going to be gotcha shows and people are going to start talking about politics. And when I'm trying to sell a book to somebody or I'm trying to sell it to everybody, regardless of the viewpoint of that book. We want everybody to take a piece from that book. We don't want someone to say, well, this person identifies as this, so I can't support them. That's the beauty of books, is that a book is an innocent piece of merchandise. You can read that particular book and come away with it with a different perspective, or you can see somebody else's perspective. So I have to be very, especially now, it wasn't always like this. Gotcha TV is kind of new. And, so it's kind of now it's just a little more difficult, and you have to be a little more savvy, and you have to, set the boundaries and the guidelines for, getting people the media that they want. That's going to be positive media and not negative media. Although negative media is not really as bad as you think it is, because we are a generation of people who like conflict. And so when you see conflict, then, people I get to choose my side. And then, so it just depending upon, are you going to be on the winning side or the losing side? It just depends. And that's all perspective.
Indeed.
Let me, can I ask a question, Laney? And it might if I ask a question, because it's very interesting to hear you say that. And I also want to hear Maze's perspective on that, because as a publicist, book publicist, for some of the names that we heard, and you talk about this gotcha TV, and we can start to put in now today, quote unquote, cancel culture, right? Mm-hmm. And I use the term being savvy, right? I've seen politicians or publicists try to play it safe, mm-hmm. right? Avoiding the conflict, right? And so how important is this? I want to ask you, Laney, and then Maze, I want you to weigh in on this as well, too. Like, for me, that's kind of the piece that makes it kind of fake and phony. Is it fake or phony, or are you really, whose interests are you protecting when you're crafting the staging of whatever it is that you're pushing?
Yeah, it really depends upon what your mission is. If you have, let's say you have a conservative politician and you put them on what is known as liberal media, you want them to go toe to toe. You want them to be out there. You want that fight, because that gets their base riled up, and that, that gets them to want to purchase that book. But let's say you have a conservative politician who wrote a book about, let's say, flower arranging. And they're actually on there to talk about flower arranging. You don't necessarily want the conflict. You want the subject to stay in flower arranging, because now you want conservative, liberal, people who don't vote, anybody. You want everybody to get your book on flower arranging, regardless of what my political views are. So that's where you have to be savvy, and that's where you have to craft the message, and that's where you have to train the person who's going on television not to react if someone's trying to bait you into a conversation that steers away the focus of the topic that you're supposed to be on. Now, if you're going toe to toe on politics, go for it. Gloves off, no holds barred. Do what you need to do to get your point across and to get, your base behind you, because at the end of the day, the one thing we need are book sales. And this goes for anything. The one thing a politician needs is what? Money, votes. Or two things, actually, money and votes.
Let me ask Maze, let me ask you this, because Maze, I know you. You get in their face. You've been toe to toe with, you call people out. You call them out, you call them on their stuff, you bring. So what's your take on this, bro? Is it, what's your take on being aggressive in politics and like pulling back those layers and uncovering what it needs to be uncovered?
So I want to, if you don't mind, I'd like to go back and then we can come to that. Stu, you describe politics in a way that unfortunately so many people view it, but don't recognize that they are involved in politics in their everyday life, whether it is governmental politics, whether it is inner office politics, whether it is family politics. And so part of when you look at the word war, I don't think you take it as necessarily the most literal meaning, but I think of it as in positioning yourself in the forefront of being able to be first or to be the distributor of resources. And I think that plays out, whether it is in governmental politics. It's more than just having the knowledge, it's having the savviness to navigate the power dynamic to essentially climb. It's why you know that there are people in your job who you be like, man, that dude be at he don't just go to work and do his job and be the best teacher or the best whatever, but he also goes to the after work events, he schmoozes with the boss, he does all the things so that after 5 o'clock, he recognizes the work that he does outside of the 9 to 5 eventually will put him in a position to direct what happens from 9 to 5. Right. So the guy that you're like, man, this punk, he be going to all this other stuff, man. I got time. I'm going to do my work, do my job. And he's the guy that says, oh, I'll take the extra job. No, you don't got to pay me for it. It's because he's using politics. Now, it's not the same politics that's electoral politics, but that's how it plays out. And so oftentimes our disdain for politics is also a hindrance, or not necessarily a hindrance, because it depends on what your goal is. If your goal is to prove, man, I'm Ungawa Black Power and I could be the best down here and never be in a position to make decisions that then will affect the whole policy long term, right? Sometimes we have a very myopic view. So I just would like to push back on the concept of politics from there, because I think when you look at it in the governmental aspect, it's easy to say that, but I think it also plays out when you said you had challenges navigating that in the workplace, and that's not a hindrance. Now, I think once you enter the realm of politics, right, you now have changed you are now no longer making decisions based on how I personally feel. You are making decisions based on the strategic way to get you to the position to be the ultimate decision maker, or be in the network of the ultimate decision makers that decide what happens to everybody else long term. So sometimes in politics, those things that you consider selling out in our space, and we as Black people, where our idea of power, because we have not had it to wield at a institutional level, really boils down to our ability to resist the man, or the ability to physically imply our power, as compared to having the ability to institutionally be able to have power, that not decide, you get to decide what happens on the block as compared to who decides what happens, who funds the concrete that you stand on that block. And until you understand what you're playing for, then it's very easy to see it that way. Now, when you look at the process of politics and our disdain for it, right? The challenge becomes that disdain is what also determines what your neighborhood looks like, what resources that you get, right? So our people that then get into the space are now, because our community has such a level of disdain, even the people that make it into the realm of politics are now hostage to the white folks, because the white folks know that the black folks have a disdain for politics. Now, and then I'm gonna back out and let y'all get so then there is what's in it for the black people. So Stu, when you talk about me calling people out, it is me wearing a different side of the hat of politics. I came into the game as a foot soldier, and I'm gonna put this in grassroots. So I came into the game as a foot soldier trying to get some rank in the world of politics. As I got into the world of politics, it was something that I loved. I learned from my fraternity in college just how to count votes, etc. Well, here it was on a massive scale. I got involved with a Chicago Alderman Burnett in the 27th Ward, who was down with hip hop at the time. I was representing Jay-Z. He said, let's get together. We got together because he was promoting an album. Well, I realized that they were giving people $70,000, $80,000 a year jobs for the stuff that I had. Our guys, where you knew us from, I get them to do what these people was doing in over a year in a night. And so essentially that's where I flipped, and I recognized that there was power in this game of politics. I climbed the ladder, made it to a point where I was in a trusted circle, and probably at the highest level that Black people had gotten in the realm of politics, when I recognized that I was essentially working against our best interests, even as I thought that I was trying to help us with community benefits agreements, etc. It was like the cartoon of 1 for you, 1 for me. 2 for you, 1, 2 for me. 3 for you, 1, 2, 3 for me. And I couldn't understand how the white pile and the Latino pile kept getting bigger and ours kept getting smaller, and we had the most votes. Hence, what's in it for the Black people? I'll stop because I get to preaching. I apologize.
You said a lot. And I'm trying to process a lot of it. You changed my perception on a few things as you were talking, but I feel like one of the most important things you said, brother, is that if we ask the question, should you go into politics? Most of us are already in our everyday lives part of being political. You're being political on a daily basis.
It's whether you're going to be a pawn and people are moving you around the chessboard because you're in politics.
You're in
or
politics.
You're going to have rank and say, all right, I'm going to be part of the decision making process.
Right. But I feel like important for people to understand is there's a difference between being in politics like you are in your regular life or in your job, or being political. The last part of what you said is you were describing, I'm gonna get to you 1 second later. You were talking about being political and going through this whole process of figuring out who has power, who has allocation of resources, this, that, and the third. Go ahead, Lane.
I think one of the things that, it's interesting to me, about the big word of politics is that, everybody gets all riled up about the presidential election, because there's commercials and there's debates and there's all this stuff. And, so people get out there and they go vote, and their person wins or their person loses or what have you. But people don't realize that politics, like I was saying before, starts so much smaller and so much closer to home. And there's so many things that affect you as a person in your community, from just like you were saying, the concrete on, who's laying the concrete, who's getting those bids to do these projects, who's shaking hands, making those deals in the back rooms. Everything is political. And if we don't get involved on a local level, what happens on the federal level doesn't really matter, because we need to start here. That's where we need to start changing things. I part-time live in Georgia too, but whatever. And this was the first time in Cobb County that they've ever elected a Black city councilman. And, they shocked. I mean, if you think about what Cobb County is and where Cobb County, but this person came in and he won, I want to say, with like 1,400 votes. And things are changing, and all these little ends will make changes. And that's where we have to, one of the things that you need to get into politics are comfortable shoes and thick skin. Because I've seen people, come through to get on city council. They've been very strategic about getting on city council. And what they did was they knocked on doors, and they went to communities that were being left out. And people didn't think these people were going to win, but what they went to these different disenfranchised communities of new immigrants into, the United States. And they were talking to them about what issues that they, that were important to them. And in turn, they actually went out and voted for this person because no one had ever come to speak to them, and there were new issues that, everybody kept saying what these people need, but no one ever went and asked what they needed. And so it's that type of level. We have to make it personal. We live in that my generation where if it doesn't affect me, I don't care. And everything affects you. So you should care.
Well, so I just like to, and I would be remiss if I did not do this. I think one of the things that we have to do when we talk about, and Stu, I know this is about people getting into politics, is we have to be intentional about the people that we elect, right? And we have to be intentional about the Black people that we elect. And we have to be intentional about the Black people, giving the Black people that understand our self-interests in the political game support. The challenge that I feel like we have as Black folks is we have, throughout this whole political process, been the blueprint, the battering ram, put in the forefront. I'm gonna tell you, when I hear y'all say people of color, it drives me nuts. When I hear you start talking about immigrant communities, it drives me nuts, because what essentially has happened is our political birthright has been stolen in this country by everyone but us. So now what you look at when we start to talk politics, when we talk people of color does not no longer, the connotation is that it means Black people, but it essentially means Latinos, Asians, Chinese, everybody else. And as that pile, LGBTQ, which I have no issues with them having or representing their self-interest. But we as Black folks in politics have been taught to be Democrat first and then Black second. And essentially in that space, what we've done is allowed ourselves to be the power. We elect all of the powerful. The Democratic Party does not exist without Black folks, but we cannot get them to say Black people. I got to go back to you, E-Money, when you talked about, or no, I think it was you, Stu, when you said you got involved in politics through the through the era of Obama. And quite frankly, while that was a catalyst for very many Black folks getting involved in politics, it also began the rapid demise of our own self-interest being protected. We no longer, President Obama, I'll be honest with you, really was never vocal about anything that happened to Black people. We accepted Amazing Grace in the face of Dylan Roof, and on the same night they passed gay marriage, which I'm not tripping out on, but I am suggesting that we as Black folks, part of the reason that we have a disdain for politics is because we have not seen it benefit our community for all of the energy that we put towards it. And so I just gotta make sure that when we have these conversations and when we talk about electing Black people or should people get involved in politics, I am for Black people getting involved, but I am for them being pro-Black. Like, and when I say Black, I am talking about ADOS, American descendants of slavery. Because quite frankly, if you look at everything that is pushed to the forefront for Black people, it comes in this package of people of color. And then when you look at their lineage does not connect to the same struggle. And then if you mentioned Yvonne Orji, and I'm just going to say this very quickly, she represents us as Black folks, but at the same time, when you watch the special, her mama tells her, don't be like them Black people from the United States, which puts us in a precarious position because we defending somebody who's essentially saying, hey, don't be like them niggas over there, excuse my language. And that is where our birthright is going. So when we talk about politics, we got the reason that you have such a disdain for it is because you have not seen it work for you the way that it does in other communities. I apologize.
Maze, I want to push back on that a little bit. I wouldn't even say push back. I want to say this. Can we continue to complain about politics not working for us if we're not taking the time to understand what the political structure is and what it represents? So if politics is in motion and it's not working out in our favor, how long do we continue to say, well, it's not working out in our favor, it doesn't really help us, and then in 2021 we still don't understand how it works? So
I think I think that there's not enough pain yet. I think that we haven't experienced enough pain. I think we got so much Instagram models and paid for booties and tails, and the pain hasn't reached the point where people are screaming yet, right? So I would push back and say that we are doing something about it every day, from broadcasting, from What's in It for the Black People media, to organizing, to being actively involved, and from the What's in It for the Black People voter guide, where we tell our people which judges to vote for. Stop blindly picking because it's a list of 500. So the work is going on. Let's not say that. Let's say that we have to expand the message and we have to get people to pay more attention to the things that are happening, whether it is the battle for reparations, which while we say it's not possible, the same government was just talking about giving $450,000 to every separated undocumented family in this stimulus. So I don't think that it's not happening. I think that we have to feel some more pain, that it forces us to look and become internal. Right now, I think we still kicking it. But I do think that an awakening is coming in the Black community, but I don't think it's just political. I think it also is going to require a spiritual awakening as well, but that's a little bit deeper than this conversation.
Let me jump in. So a lot of things, again, you said, which are absolutely right. I want to go back to my own quasi awakening. When Obama, for me, it was just the only thing that made me start paying attention, me personally, was like, okay, I want to better understand how this works. Like, we got a Black person, a Black man, okay, that we're excited about. Okay, let me start paying more attention, right? I do believe, Maze and Laney, that I've always been in politics, just ain't liked it, right? Because of how I seen it. But I recognize that you gotta pick and choose your battles. You gotta find your ground. You gotta figure out what you're gonna stand on. What I think will help, and I do agree with you, Maze, that we are still kicking it and ain't nobody really hurting. And as Black folks, and we can get a little money and be okay. And it hasn't really hit us yet. But I think what will help get that message across, particularly, I ain't even worried about Gen X's and baby boomers, right? More concerned about the millennials, the zennials, right? This new generation. What will help them better understand politics and why they should continue to participate, because the millennials are far more involved in politics than our generation ever was, in my opinion, is because you have to help them see how it affects them today. That's the part that I just didn't get when I was, and even though I was I passed out buttons for Harold Washington. I passed out buttons. I didn't know what I was doing, right? But I didn't still see the connection of how this was affecting me at that time. And that same, the political you talked about it, politics in the workplace, politics at home. We all care. What's in it for the Black people? And that's always going to be, and let me say this, it's always Black people, Laney, when you're writing it, Black people, when you're talking about Black people, it's Black people with a capital B. Otherwise, I feel disrespected if you're talking about Black people and put some spec on that name. It's Black people with a capital B. Is how is this affecting me today? How do I use this? So
I think the generation right now, I mean, they have something that we've never had, and that's the access to so much more information. So like when you said you were passing out buttons for Harold Washington, you didn't know why. I mean, that's understandable. Somebody hand you some buttons, be like, he Black, go. Just go pass out these buttons because we need to get him elected. And now we can actually delve deep and see who's behind these politicians. You know, one of the things that we always have to do is follow the money. You know, who is funding what and what are these special interests? And we can do that now with the help of the access that we have for social media. And like you said, when people start seeing how different things affect them, because as I mentioned before, this is I, me, my kind of thing. This is, you know, why should I care? I hear that all the time. Why should I care? And then when you break it down, like I've got friends who will say, well, why do I care who's on the school board? Well, let me tell you why. Because these are after school programs. These are, you know, you're creating people who create citizens, who create taxpayers. If they can get better paying jobs, you're creating better community. You're creating people who are involved in politics. You're creating business people, entrepreneurs. That's why. This is, you know, it's not just about you. And when you break it down and you see the tax revenues and all that other stuff that comes into making each community better, when you have great school districts, then that's why you should be involved. And that's why you should care. And that's why you should be able to, you know, that's why you should vote for your school board person, you know. So it's definitely about how does this affect me? And it's also about stepping out of being lazy. Because you do have to do the work and you do have to be interested and you do need to go out and seek who serves your interest and the interest of your community best.
Yeah, I like that about how does it affect us now. And I want to talk about this. And if you can't get into this, Laney, I understand. But going back to Maze's comment about Yvonne Orji's comment or her joke, stand up, that's fine.
Don't put on.
Yeah, I'm not.
I like my job.
I understand that, but I do need to talk about that for a second because I want to talk to Maze then about why is it so important for that joke to be included in the stand-up routine from a political point of view.
Well, I would tell you that for me personally, I think it is an example, right? A tangible example of how I can point to the distinctions that sometimes are hard for us to understand. One of the things that Black people have been taught is, or have is we don't understand our self-interest. And we tend to identify with every group and take on every group's pain and struggle, and with the hope that they will embrace us the same way. And so when we entrust our political interests into this thing called people of color, right? We see that even if it is people of color, if we don't self-identify within that group, like if we allow ourselves to become soup, we find out that America still doesn't love us, and the people who are in the group with us don't particularly care for us either. But if they're still piling resources against this people of color, not Black specific, right? If you look at our largest percentage of people who have extended degrees in college that are considered people of color or Black, that's not Black descendants of slavery, right? That is the people that have been able to come in and utilize the pain and suffering of Black descendants of slavery has become the opportunity for other people to benefit. And until we recognize reparations and recognize our own self-interest, I think it's important that we understand that they see a distinction between us and them. While we're hugging everybody and saying, come on in, those resources don't necessarily recycle to us. They're not necessarily saying I would argue with you that if you look at when you think of people of color and you think of the word diversity, right, which is what this country has moved towards, when you used to hear those, that meant Black and maybe brown, right? If you see it in your mind right now, if you talk to any politician, they'll say we're diverse, we represent people of color, right? Kamala was crying for people of color at the border, but those were not Black people. And when the Black people got the whips and chains, she didn't go back down there.
Wow.
Right? But we accepted that was people of color. And so we got to recognize that even in this Black and brown coalition, we're the only ones that say Black and brown. They say Latino. They say Hispanic. We be like the Black and brown coalition. And then the white folks be like, well, we gave you yours. But you had to cut that in 50. And then not did you cut it in 50 because you pushed it to diversity and the Asians got theirs, right? They took the engineering, which is the easy, big money. We get left with the sweeping the floors, but we've been part of these diversity programs. White women are included in the group of diversity. So I think when you ask me about the joke, to tie it all back together, Black people, particularly descendants of slaves in America, have a particular unique set of issues across the country that are different than any other people of color. So when we approach politics and a Black politician from Illinois starts talking about people of color and we are the destination of the Great Migration and they can't say Black first and they are elected and everybody in this state is elected because of Black folks, that's why we have to be intentional about this part of the shirt, Black people.
Yeah, I think that's a good answer. I mean, I don't want to keep going into this too much. I don't want to make Lainey uncomfortable. And this isn't really about Yvonne, because I actually like her. My wife will tell you that.
Me too.
But I feel like we have to be careful with, and this is political to me, because politics is global. It's beyond what's going on in the United States. So whatever Yvonne's mother told her, we have to understand, as people who understand what Blackness is globally, mentally, why she is saying something like that. We got Black people in this country that make similar comments. I've been around them. People who are descendants of slavery in the United States that make similar comments about Black people in the globally.
We making comments about the Black people on the low end, bro, versus Black people out west and out
we got
south.
This person, that person, all of these different divisions. So all I'm saying is I feel like we got to be very, very careful not to make these people an outcast because their mother says something. What is my father saying right now? It's probably, it's probably something not so great, but what's the actual reality? We're all Black, and there are global politics at play beyond Illinois in the United States. Please.
And Maze, I know you want to say something, but I just want to piggyback that in you, because the thing about politics for me that also kind of gives me this unique rub is that we always got to seem like we got to play it safe, right? So this is where even E-Money and I may kind of differ on that. Like, you got to play it safe. You got to, you just said it. Let's be careful not to. We don't want to offend. We don't want to step on. But these are, it's like, go ahead, Maze. Come on, bro.
Two things. All politics are local. It all scales up, right? So if you looked at what happened with Trump and trying to certify the states, those decisions were made by local state reps and state senators. So I would push back on just the global concept. I do recognize that there are global politics, but it all starts locally. And I can't worry, really right now, we can't worry about what's happening 300 miles around the country when one in every 4 Black kids in Chicago goes to an underperforming school. We got to prioritize. And I think, Stu, your last thing you just said, I apologize.
No, I was just saying, I'm so caught up with what you. Yeah.
I can just stop right there. But I just want to make sure that we're clear that we have to be inclusive. but we can walk and chew gum, and our interests aren't always the same, right? Sometimes we know when we have to be coalition. If it's a Black thing across the world, that's different than who's fighting for our local resources, for our schools, etc.
Well, I appreciate
Come on, Laney. Laney wanted to say something too.
I appreciate both of you for mixing it up a little bit. We try to be non-judgmental on the show, but also like get into the topic. You know what I mean? I don't expect you to agree with everything I'm saying and vice versa. So I appreciate that. Laney, I want to ask you, who is most likely in your eyes to actually engage in the political process at this point? We've talked a lot about what politics is, how you can be involved in politics, but at the end of the day, who's going to be involved?
That is a hard question because everywhere I look around, in politics, it's harder and harder to get people to actually run because of all of the negativity. And it seems like there's more mudslinging and more negativity going on in politics versus getting stuff done. And I know that years and years and years ago, when I worked on a political campaign and got to see the behind the scenes and what was really, what all went into working on a political campaign, I was like, I don't think I ever want to do this again. And I was like, and I don't think I want to run. I was like, this, it took my breath away, just to see all of the inner workings to get somebody elected, to only have to start, to get somebody elected for 2 years. And now I've got to start 6 months into my, I've won 6 months. I got to start doing it again just so that I can get reelected. And the focus became more about getting reelected versus getting things done. It became that fundraiser and door knocking and all that other kind of stuff. So I don't know how you get people involved and how you get them interested in wanting to continue to do it and, not burning out. And, I think that we need to understand that politics has turned into almost a popularity contest, and it needs to turn into who's going to get shit done. And that's the bigger thing. That's the bigger key. It's, we've got people who've been elected because for the small little things that they know a lot of people in the community, or they go to a certain church. And so that certain church backs them. And then you've got and they don't get anything done. They get elected and they sit there and they miss the meetings and they don't vote. And I think that is something that we need to put up front and center. Every time someone gets elected, or every time someone starts to run or rerun, like an incumbent starts to run, we need to see how many things you voted on and what exactly did you vote for? And that needs to be it needs to be on their political materials that they're sending out. So you can actually see what this person actually did and what have they done to contribute to make their community a better community? Because there's a lot of people who are there just getting their health benefits and their little stipend check.
I love that, no doubt. I think that would help as well. Mays, do you think that we can start back grooming Black politicians? So you made the point that local politics is the most important, and then it goes up from there. Are we grooming our young people to be involved in local politics and to scale up?
I would say we are not. And so our leadership is not who we pick. It is who is picked for us. And then oftentimes they are groomed by the system, the people in the system that want to protect their self-interest. One of the things that I think is that politics, I believe that there are certain people in this world that are born to be in this space or develop a certain love for this space.
I agree.
And those people oftentimes in our community do not have a route through a Black person. So often they are identified very young and they are plucked and then they are groomed by white folks. So oftentimes, even when I was at the peak of my Black political power, it was a ceiling and I kind of waited around for some white guy to be like, okay, let's take him from Chicago and bring him to Springfield, where then you see this whole, there is no Black political infrastructure that exists, right? There is no young Democrats. There is no, and so we don't have an ecosystem. Our business community So I believe that politics does not exist in a vacuum of itself. It's business, it's politics, it's education, it's the streets, it is the religious community, and they are all an interconnected web that then produces and then supports. We don't have elected officials, and we don't have the infrastructure to protect the elected officials that would be willing to stand up. So the moment you stand up, and I would give you the example, people hate me to use this, but Ken Duncan, right? The Ken Duncan race became literally the most expensive race in the history of the United States for a state representative seat, where President Barack Obama got involved to tell Black people to call him a sellout. Now, that was because there was a political battle going on, and what they were fearful of was that if this one Black dude could get access to resources and beat the system, what would happen? And so everybody beat him into submission. Was he right? No, but what happened showed you how important it was to ensure that we don't have free thinking Black folks. They don't want us to think beyond. You get two choices. And in most cases in the Black community, you don't even get a choice, because most of our elected officials run unopposed. So they never have a reason. We can't ever hold them accountable. So even if you give them a report card, who's the competition? Right? And so we've got to be intentional about our politics and not looking at it in a vacuum.
Yeah, and I know we're running out of time, but to kind of close this conversation up, I always push people when we talk about the problems, and they're very well defined. We know what the problems are in the political ecosystem, the fact that we don't even have one necessarily. But so for people like Stu and I, we both have young sons. I think they're both 13 years old. What's the playbook, Laney and Mays? What's the blueprint for us to start developing our young Black politicians and to create the ecosystem that Mays is talking about? How do we do it?
Start them in school. Politics starts in school. You have the class president that you're running for, and that's, you have to make politics something that it becomes like brushing your teeth. Yeah. It becomes ingrained in you. It becomes something that, when you realize, when you can actually live out something versus reading it in a book, and it starts to apply to you, and you can say, oh, okay, well, I had these people vote for me because I had stood firm on these particular issues in my class. I said that I was going to, add 5 minutes more to recess or whatever, and that was my campaign topic, and then they start realizing that, oh, okay, so the bigger picture is, as I matriculate and as I grow older, I can see this, school turns into high school, and high school turns into college if that's where they want to go. But even if it's not college and you decide to do a trade, you've got the union, so then you can run for union. It's pervasive through everything. But if people are just like, go out and vote, and you're like, why? I don't know, because we've always voted. Then why should that makes people apathetic? I'm voting for what? Why do I care? But when you become part of it, and you started at an early age, you started at your house. You can be like, all right, who's going to be president of the house today? Who's going to be, and if you're president, you get elected one day to make all the rules in the house, just one day, because, kids get a little crazy. But you can be like, you're president of the house today, so you get to make all the rules, but the rules that you make need to affect everybody in this house, and we all need to be happy. We all need to work together. So it's about ingraining what politics means in your micro so that it becomes pervasive in the macro.
I love that. My son actually did that. He ran for class president. He won. And to your point, he was able to make some small changes in the school. So now,
losing isn't bad. Losing an election isn't bad, because that.
And he thought he was going to lose. He actually thought he was going to lose, but he ended up winning. So, like you said, even if he had lost, it would have still been a great experience for him.
Exactly.
Mays, what is the blueprint? What are the solutions here?
So I would say that there isn't a blueprint. I think that we're in the process of creating that. I think we've got to incorporate what Laney said as it relates to ingraining it and connecting it to reality in everyday life. I think that also in that we should find things that our young people care about, right? And connect them with how their actions. Can I say something? Like, when you think about young people, it's very difficult for elected officials to turn them down, right? And if you organize them, and everybody doesn't have to be the spokesperson, somebody may go get the signatures, somebody may go because you start to show them just the process. And then you engage them in the office and you connect them to an elected official, I would 9 times out of 10 bet that they would be able to see progress. And when you have that first win, right, you get an addiction to winning, and you start to see what are the things and the places that you put them, that you connect. I would say in schools, investigate what your school does, right? One of the things that we have done and seen is civics being taken out of schools. So our young people aren't necessarily seeing how, they don't understand how their vote matters. So they don't make the connection between the sidewalk that they got to walk over or the bad street that they got to cross with no stop sign or stoplight to their vote, right? I think that there has been an intentional disconnection between our communities and the governmental process. So we see just vote. And then the last thing I would say is that we've got to start, and I know I'm gonna probably catch some hell for this, but we've got to start pushing and promoting Black men in politics. One of the things that we see, the strategy for Democrats is utilize a woman of color, ideally a Black woman of color, is the preferred candidate of choice. If you pay attention, Democrats are very intentional about separating Black women, and the Black women and Black men vote. And we vote, both of us vote over in the high 90s for Democrats. I think the lack of seeing strong Black men in role models and positions of power leads to a slippery slope in our community that we have to start to find. Part of the reason that our young men are not involved in this process is because they do not see the ability to stand up and represent and be leaders in their space. And I go back to what I talked about before, because we don't see Black men in positions of power, then we try to exercise it on the street. When you look at President Obama, no disrespect, they present to us the calm, cool, clean, collected, everything's cool. But when you're screaming on the inside and you see a guy telling you it's all cool, you start to say, where do I fit in this process? Right. So I would just say that there is the rebuilding of our entire Black ecosystem, moving away from dependency. And finally, when we elect Black folks, stop having them be taking this perceived vow of poverty. Our politics always seems to revolve around social services, right? And you don't see us in banking and finance, in defense, and all of the places where you can create generational wealth. So all of our politics, when we elect our elected officials, you don't see them on the offense. You see them saying, hey, how can I get health and human services? How can we get more? And I'm not saying that we don't, but we are over-reliant politically on social services instead of building our infrastructure. And I'll leave it at that.
It's funny you should say that. I had a conversation with the president of Philander Smith University one day, and we were all sitting around a table, and there was a young guy at the table in college. And he asked the guy, he said, well, what do you want to do? And the young guy was like, oh, I'm going to start a nonprofit. And he said, why? He said, because I want to help my community. And he was like, how is that going to help your community? He said, there are 30 different nonprofits doing exactly what you want to do. He said, why don't you start a for-profit and make some money? And then from that, create a foundation. And then you have a tax write-off. So you're making money and you're feeding into your foundation. And like light bulbs. And the little kid, he was a young guy, 18, 19, and he was just like, he was mad because he was challenged because, he thought he was doing something good. But when I tell you, I was like, but that's how we need to think. Stop thinking. I mean, in Nashville, Tennessee, I think there's like 35 nonprofits to help the homeless. Yet we still have a homeless population. So, and they can't seem to work together to, help, fix the problem. So we need business minds. We need business thinking. First of all, we need the resources and the capital and to be able to help, because walking around with a t-shirt and marching with a sign is not going to create the money that we need to fix the problems. Because at the bottom line, money does fix problems. Everybody wants to think, we can sing Kumbaya and hold hands. That ain't it.
Somebody got to make some.
We got a few comments in the chat. And E-Money knows I'm all for starting a for-profit before a non-profit. Corey Gilkey, the CEO, founder of Leaders, says we need our own policies like everyone else. And Michelle Flagg is watching, and she says, I discourage starting a non-for-profit before a business. And Gilkey also says there's 5,000 nonprofits that don't work in Chicago. Thank you for this statement. So,
okay.
Yes. Good stuff.
Good feedback. All right, we know you all are some heavy hitters. You got to get on with your day, but we just want to ask you all real quick, any final thoughts on this conversation? And Yvonne, Laney did not say anything on that particular topic. That was Mays and myself. Please keep that in mind. Laney, any final thoughts?
I think that we have to understand, just like we said, politics, no matter big, small, little, it affects you. It affects everything around you. It affects where you live, how you live. It affects whether or not you're going to get you have to pay that extra money to get the emissions done in your car, your tags, title, license, taxes. So when you say you don't know if you're going to vote or you don't care and you're apathetic about it, don't complain. Don't complain. Most important, the internet is free. Go on and Google some stuff, learn some stuff, start small. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Get involved.
Get involved. All right. Thank you so much. Mr. Jackson, final comments.
He stole all good stuff. So first of all, let me say thank you to everybody. Laney, thank you. Stu, Eric, thank you all for the opportunity to share the stage or share the screen with you. I gotta say it, politics for me is an addiction, right? I can't even front. It's like, I love it. The bad, the good, the ugly, the underbelly of it. As a matter of fact, I thrived as a practitioner of the dark arts of politics. Although with the intentional mindset of, in a war, we have to have people that are able to fulfill every slot to make sure that we win. And you got spies, you got everything in war, and there's somebody that's got to blow up the bridge, there's somebody that's got to infiltrate. And I think that we have all of those spaces that are available in this thing called politics. I do want to also say to Laney, please let Yvonne Orji know I watch Insecure all the time. We got much love, right? And it's no disrespect. It is just like there is a level of pride in, man, I watched her special. They went to Nigeria. She embraced her culture. She embraced every bit of it. It's not a shame thing. It's not a reason to divide us, but it is. I'm tired of Black people being forced to whisper when we want to talk about our self-interest. So, you get in a room and people be like, and the Black people was doing their thing, and we try to whisper instead of saying proudly, nobody is upset when it's St. Patrick's Day and the Irish have their pride. I don't want to take away from anybody else's, but I think that we have to start understanding our self-interest, which is why I would encourage you all, if you are looking for information, particularly in Illinois around election time, look for the What's in It for the Black People Voters Guide. One of the most important votes you'll make is for judges. And oftentimes, because the list is so long, we just be like, ooh, do that name sound Black? I'm gonna hit that one, I'm gonna hit that one, I'm gonna hit that one. Well, remember, if you're from Chicago, it was a judge that decided that Rekia Boyd's killer would go. It was a judge that decided. And so we start small. People already know what they want to do at the presidential level, but and let's encourage people to not only run, but to get involved in all layers of the political process, because we've got to build an infrastructure that allows Black politicians to stand up for our self-interest. Thank you all again for the opportunity to be with you today.
Can I say one thing? I would be remiss if I did not shout out my girls at the Equity Alliance. They are doing the work. Tequila Johnson, the Equity Alliance, look them up. They are making sure that Black people are understanding politics.
Black people. It's okay to say Black people.
It is.
Love it. I love it.
Equity Alliance.
The
Thank
Equity
you all
Alliance.
both for coming
We'll
on.
put
and
it in
being-
the show notes.
Being real and having a real conversation. That's what this is about. We appreciate you. We're gonna let you get back to your day, and hopefully we can bring you all on in season 6 or 7 and get on your platforms as well.
Hey,
I'll be in Chicago on Wednesday.
Hey, well, we
Oh,
gotta
hit
catch
us
up.
up.
If you're in Chicago on Wednesday, don't be a stranger. Stop into the studio. We love to have you in to chat and sit in.
Wow. Call them on that, lady. Now, come on. now.
I'll be in Chicago from Wednesday to Saturday.
Oh, you heard me
I'm on
say
a
it.
book tour. I'm
Now
on a
look,
book
he's
tour
on. He's
with,
live. He's
Is it your book?
No,
bring
it's
your-
actually Portia Williams from The Real Housewives of Atlanta.
Big baller. Bring her through What's in it for the Black People Media if you need a spot.
Is she
Also,
traveling with you, Lainey? She's traveling with you. So listen, Lainey, I don't want this to brush by, and I know you probably already have your tour scheduled together. I know how that works. But Maze is not a he's not a small ball. Maze is the truth. And he's on record right now saying, come by. You know,
If you can,
take him up on that.
That schedule is a little crazy right now, but
yeah.
Regardless,
I will.
Yeah,
like,
but
just know, and you come to Chicago, there's probably nothing larger in the mornings than what we're doing in the social space.
I would
So
agree.
it's open.
y'all
Open door
hook us up because we might, if we can't come through, maybe she can call in or do something.
or Zoom or something. That'd be great. Though.
Yeah.
Love to have it.
Okay.
All right.
Maze, you were going to say something.
Fellas, and I did. I want to say, man, what I got. Yeah. So I know
Say it.
I left your fate in the. So one of the things that I don't believe in the game is leaving your fate in the hands of someone else. And I left your fate in the hands of someone else. So Stu, Eric, if y'all, I don't know where y'all at, what y'all.
I'll say it right now. We are very much interested in being a part of what you got going on, bro.
Always have been.
And our proof is we gonna keep doing what we doing no matter what. Our numbers are good, but to the points that what you're talking about here, Lainey said it, you've said it. We want to work with each other. It don't even make sense. Why shouldn't we help build your powerhouse? You can help build what we doing. Eric's got the vision. I got the fortitude. You got the outlet. Lainey doing her. It doesn't make sense for us to all be separated. We should be supporting each other. That's part of the reason why E-Money and I started this, to prove, one, that Black men can work together. Black men can be on something positive. Black men can support each other. We can build an ecosystem. We wanted to be part of that demonstration. So
absolutely.
So
we are ready and willing.
So let me tell you, let's coordinate that meeting sooner rather than later. I'm open to get together this week. I mean, my calendar's not booked, so I'll send you some, and then you know what I'm saying, then we can tie this all together. Hey guys, I do want to say thank you all so much for the opportunity. I was feeling some kind of way this morning, like, damn, I shouldn't have said 8 o'clock. And now I'm glad I said 8 o'clock, man.
And I would have got y'all for 6 or 7 a.m. My call started at 5:30 a.m.
You know, I do 4
You wouldn't have got me.
I'm in this chair at 4 a.m.
I'm on vacation.
And you still put it in, Lainey. Thank you for giving up some of your
more
than your 30 minutes that you gave us the whole time.
Yeah,
I appreciate
you gave us
that.
way more than 30. Thank you for that. We love that.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
We'll bring both of y'all back. Maze, I'm gonna be following up with you. I may see you later. I'm gonna be at Joe's on Weed Street later on tonight for the event.
That's why you
HBC.
that's why you got your hoodie on. I see.
Southern over Grambling every day, all day, man.
Hey,
shout out to all the HBCUs.
Can I just say one more thing?
State.
Yeah, University of Illinois fighting the line out. We gonna kick Northwestern's ass today. But
y'all do got him today, and E-Money from Northwestern.
E-Money, how could you, dog? We are Chicago's Big Ten team. Hey, just one more thing. You see, I got on my What's in it for the Black People hoodie. We have camouflage. We also have black and white. We have girl sizes. Also stop by TP located at 5410 South Wentworth. Get all if you have a smoker, toker, stoner friend, and we don't sell cannabis.
Wow.
We got everything else they need. Check out my man Big Swill store. It's in the shopping mall at 55th and the Dan Ryan. You will not be disappointed. They got everything.
Love it. That's awesome. We appreciate y'all. Me and E got some work that we need to finish up. All of this will be in the show notes when we edit and put it in the replay. Thank you all, and we'll talk to you both very, very soon.
Peace.
Peace. E-Money, what a show, man.
Man, I got a lot to think about, brother. Got a lot to think about. I got a lot to try and go back and process. I'm serious because I don't consider myself, well, after this conversation, I guess I am political.
And you know what? And not only am I political, but I'm going to take it a little more seriously too, bro. I'm in. And not for, for all the reasons that I said that I didn't want to participate. I'm not trying to get over on people. I just want to be a part of the decision-making process. I want to be more intentional about it and making my places and spaces better than when I found them. So I just got to learn how to play the game. And it's not even I just have to play the game more intentionally, man. So I'm here for it, bro.
More intentional. Yeah, that was great, man. I can't wait to go back and watch that and digest some of that. And I like the fact that Maze wants to work, talk about all that. So that's beautiful. All right, so we got a couple more things to get into. We have Tales from the Startup. I had a burning question, but I think we really got into that already. So that's cool. For the younger people, I just want to say this real quick. I want to clarify, what are some examples of getting into politics, the political arena, knowing and communicating with your legislators, attending town hall meetings, attending city council meetings, your local school board, even mobilizing people to support a specific cause, volunteering, rallies, and of course, you can run for political office. All right. Yeah. So let's close the loop on that. All right. So let's go to Tales from the Startup, Stu.
Let's do it.
So every episode we do either characters from corporate or Tales from the Startup. Characters from corporate is for the people who are employed in a corporate structure. They get to tell us a little bit about what's going on. Tales from the Startup is people who have started their own business, Stu. They're entrepreneurs, and they want to get some feedback from two entrepreneurs, Stu and myself. So we try to do that some justice. This week, we got somebody who wrote in from Washington, D.C. Okay. Shout out to D.C.
Shout out to the DMV. I love the DMV.
DMV is beautiful. I wish I was there now. I actually was there a couple of weeks ago. Got a chance to go to the wharf and chill out. This is from a black man from DC. He said, I just started a tech startup and we are looking for capital. I have researched what venture capitalists and angel investors typically look for before going in their pockets. My team, not so much. They keep saying, let's continue to build without being beholden to investors. I have no more cash to put into this venture and have already run through my 401k and my other savings. My partners have a little more cash that might get us through the rest of the year. I'm wondering what you guys think about this. And just to be clear, this is a well-researched and vetted startup solving a clear problem, and we have an operational team in place. It's all about the next phase. So we got a startup, Washington, D.C. They're thinking about going the venture capital route or angel investors. They're looking for more capital. The brother who wrote in is not so sure about that. Oh, he wants to do it, but his team is saying, no, let's keep going in our pocket. We don't want to be beholden to investors. Stu, what are your thoughts?
This is, you know damn well, this is very, very close to me.
It is actually, yes.
Very, very close to me, almost to the T. And so I like the route that I've taken, and although this is what I would suggest, like I agree, two things. At some point, you're going to need some of that outside capital. It's unavoidable unless you get that pop that just from sales or a big contract but even then, at some point, you're going to need outside capital, period. You can't, it's unavoidable. When is the big question, and how much control do you want to give away? Now, having said that, here's what I think. Even getting to the point to be investor ready is going to take you some time, a couple of months, minimum, 90 days, 60 to 90 days to get investor ready. So in the meantime, you got to keep going. You don't have a choice but to keep going. But whether or not you go public, whether or not you take on an angel, pre-seed, Series A, you're going to have to take on that outside capital. So you all are both right. You just be intentional, be specific about when and how much equity you're going to give up, if any, and what your controlling rights look and feel like going forward. That's what I got, E. Now, E, you it's E money time. Now tell me, what's your take on it?
Nah, I like your take, man. I mean, hey, even if you were a person was like a multi-millionaire, billionaire, why would you continue to go in your own pocket after a certain point, like you said?
OPM.
So, yeah, so it's other people's money at a certain point. I would just say, why don't you all think about a crowdfunding campaign?
Mm-hmm.
That could be a little bit of a bridge between what one camp is thinking and the other camp. You go out, you find a really good crowdfunding platform, you set up everything, make sure it looks nice and all of that, and then you can start with your friends and family. So you've already went in your pocket. But what about your friends and family? You can hit up between the three of you. You got 3 homeboys, 3 partners, or whatever, 3 other founders. You all should at least be able to get in front of 100 people. Try to raise 50 or 100,000. I don't know what it is, but try to raise 50 or 100,000 from them. And the fact that it's on one of those platforms, Stu, it makes it that much more credible. It's not me just calling you saying, "Can you give me $5,000?" It's on a platform. And sometimes just having that visual is a game changer for a family member or a friend who may not have invested otherwise.
And there are I think that's super dope. Actually, I have to do that for my own stuff for the music streaming platform, and I'm super excited about what's happening there. But setting up my own crowdfunding campaign is absolutely critical. And they look a lot different today than the first 1 or 2 that were on the market in the beginning.
They're dope now.
They're super dope now. Money isn't. Now I did a crowd. I've supported somebody's campaign recently. And it almost backfired, E, because you can pledge the money now, and then they take the money only if they hit their goal.
Yeah.
And so I allocated the money in real time, but then it was 30 days later and the money wasn't there, bro. And they called me, like, "Hey man, we hit our goal, but they're trying to get the money. It ain't out." So I had to move some money around, and it's like, "Oh, give me 3 minutes, man." I had to move something around. So I didn't like that because I know that can happen. It's like, no, I don't want that one. But there are some campaign platforms out there that will give equity. If you want to give equity to the people, you can give those gifts, and I love what you said about it makes it credible.
Yes.
Which is super, super dope. So
it shows that you're growing, and you could tie that in with we talk about virtual launch parties or in-person launch. If you tie the 2 of those together, that could be really, really intriguing.
You just gave me a hell of an idea for something that you and I will talk about offline. That's something I think I can get up in the next week or so.
Okay.
So hey, DC, go for it, man. You all are on the right path.
Yeah, man.
Chop it up.
We need you.
Go do your thing. Go do your thing. You're doing great. So
only the last thing I'll say, I know we're out of time, is as you do your, people use this term, we're doing different rounds of financing. That's cool and all of that, but just remember, like, why are you doing this specific round of financing? The round, this section of financing. Is it for infrastructure? Is it for marketing? Like, just be clear, because you might be like, we're going to do 3 different rounds. This round is for this. This one is for that. Just for your people, before you go to them, be very clear about why you need this money right now.
Yeah, how is it going to be spent? We got a couple of comments, a couple of people I want to shout out.
All right.
Corey Gilkey. Somebody is repping Oh man, it's going down. Let me see. We got to start working together. We always talk about us not working together, but other groups do. That's the difference. That's T. Renee. Michelle Flag is representing Spellman. My man Corey Gilkey says Bayou Boogie is tonight, and it is. So that'll date this. We got the illustrious Dr. Beulah, soon to be Dr. Beulah McLeod is watching. Devon Gordine. What's good? What we on? Got to go back and check the replay. And Gilkey also says more investors, more equity lost. So keep that in mind. Man, we had a popping show today, man.
Yeah, we did. And shout out to you said Corey from Leaders.
Yeah, Corey is he's the guy from Leaders.
They got a nice
1354.
I believe I saw a nice ad campaign that they have going on, just showing, I think, the history of their brand that I saw on social media. So shout out to them. I don't know.
Yeah,
I
got this from him, man. I got this from Gilkey last year, maybe. Maybe it was a couple of years ago.
Okay.
I owe him for it, but he know what it is at this point.
All right.
It's an original.
Okay.
African American College Alliance. Thank you, Gilkey, my brother. Appreciate you.
Yeah.
But yeah, support your people. Support your people.
Question. Beautiful.
Last thing before we go, man. Last thing.
Sure. What's up?
It's just one artist I want to introduce us to from Pool.
Okay.
And it's my guy out of
over that, brother.
Hey man.
Musicspool.com.
Musicspool.com. We're gonna check out LG Beats. It's just a track. He's got 2 tracks, but let me tell you what I love about this dude. He's one of my former guys, one of my former proteges. He's from Cameroon, Africa, right? He makes beats, and he's trying to he has artists over there. As a matter of fact, he wants to do a satellite for Pool over in Cameroon. I want to support him, nice. But my money tied up, man. I ain't got no cash laying around right now, bro. But I want to support him. And so let's just listen to a couple of these beats that I think are dope. Let's listen to this one. We're not going to listen to a couple of them, but you can go to musicspool.com, create you a free account. Check out LG Beats. We're going to listen to this joint called My King. Right. And let me know what you all think, all right?
Sounds good.
And then from here, after we're going to check this out, and then here we're going to be out, all right? All right. LG Beats, My King. Here we go.
Yahweh, 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 worthy to be praised. Let me follow your way. Forever you are the same. If you are my life today, you are my everything. You are my everything. You are my everything. Jesus is love. Jesus is King. He saves my scars, forgive my sins. Jesus is love. Jesus is King. He saves my scars, forgive my sins.
LG Beats, bro. LG Beats. I thought that was just an instrumental, but I
was vibing off that. I like that. I kind of forgot that we were in the episode a little bit.
Dang.
Started looking at my phone and just kind of zoned out. That lets you know it's a good song for me.
It's a good song, man. Check them out. Check them out. LG Beats on on musicspool.com. He's on Facebook too.
Okay.
So it's been a real show, man. I love it.
Man.
I love it.
Another beautiful episode, my brother. This is one of those days that I don't know how I got on time. It was really crazy, but I got here, and I really like that we had guests that were willing to open up and be real and talk about politics, and that's the goal. So we did it.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it was a great show. Good job. Good job. Looking forward to the next one. We're on the other half of this season, man. You know, that was episode 4.
Got 3 more joints to do.
3 more joints to do. 3 more joints on singles to drop off this album.
No doubt. No, that'll be season 5, and we'll start thinking about season 6. So
Indeed.
Man. Looking forward.
We're going for the top awards, man. Look, the podcast space, you know, I know it got look, we've been on this journey. It got a little wild and crazy, but a lot of people fell off, man. A lot of people fell off, man. We still here, and it's great. It's beautiful, man.
And
so
some people fell off, student. I actually thought had really good shows, and I looked to for inspiration when we first started, and they're gone.
They
Probably
watching us,
creative differences and stuff like that, you know.
And I know it gets, like we talk about, it gets challenging. It gets challenging, as I've said this in the beginning. I probably said this on episode 1. These are relationships. You know what it's like in a relationship. Them first 6 months, man, that first year, bliss.
Yeah.
But what about year 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9? That's where you test out the relationship. And it's always easy to be like, I'm out.
Yeah.
Nah, man. The champions say, let's recalibrate. I still love you. Like, let's focus up. You know, and that's what the champions say. We champs, bro.
And you've always conducted yourself as a man of honor. I appreciate that. There's been no pettiness, no feminine activity, what they call feminine energy, none of that. So I appreciate that. And that's the stuff that keeps us going. Just understanding that the show is that important, that we got to put all that petty stuff on the side and get the show out. Stu is the one who took the lead to get this episode out by sourcing the guests, because I was, in another space. So I appreciate that. All that game, man, makes a great show. My brother hold me down, I hold him down, and we get the show out to the people.
You the Scottie Pippen of podcast pimping, brother. I got you. Lean on my shoulder, man. I got you. We're gonna win this thing, brother, and that's what it is. So. And shout out to all the people that's chimed in. Tony Briscoe, I see you, man. You out there? Love it. James Matthews Jr., is that one of your people?
Nah.
We got strangers going in. We got strangers jumping in. Gloria Turner, Daryl Stiff.
They're part of the MSG family now.
Man, we love y'all, man. Thank y'all, brother. I'm out, man, because I could sit here all day, but I got a couple more things to do, and my son's got his first basketball game of the season today. So I'm going to get ready for that as well, man.
All right, man. Like, comment, share if you like the show. We're cooking up the next episode, and we will talk to you all soon.
You already know what it is. Until next time, peace.